Hello and welcome to Z. In this episode, we are traveling to Brazil and look at Sao Paulo together. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon. The city of Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo is Brazil's most populous city and the headquarters of the state of Sao Paulo, the country's most populated and wealthiest state, located in the country's southeast region. Sao Paulo is the most populated city proper in the Americas, the Western Hemisphere, and the Southern Hemisphere, as well as the world's fourth largest city proper by population, according to the GAWC. Furthermore, Sao Paulo is the world's largest Portuguese-speaking metropolis. It has significant international clout in commerce, banking, the arts, and entertainment. St. Paul of Tarsus is honored by the city's name. Greater Sao Paulo is the most populated metropolitan area in Brazil and the 12th most populous on the planet. Conurbation between the metropolitan areas around Greater Sao Paulo, Campinas, Santos, Jundia, Sorocaba, and São José dos Campos resulted in the Sao Paulo macrometropolis, a megalopolis with over 30 million inhabitants and one of the world's most populous urban agglomerations. The city is home to the Sao Paulo Stock Exchange and has the greatest GDP in Latin America and the Southern Hemisphere. Paulista Avenue is Sao Paulo's economic heart. The city has the world's 23rd largest GDP, accounting for 10.7% of total Brazilian GDP, and 36% of Sao Paulo state production of goods and services, is home to 63% of established multinationals in Brazil, and was responsible for 28% of national scientific production in 2005, as measured by the number of science papers published in journals. The city also has several of Brazil's largest skyscrapers, including the Mirante do Vale, Edifício Italia, Bainspa, North Tower, and many others. The city has national and international cultural, economic, and political clout. It is home to the Latin American Memorial, Ibirapuera Park, the Museum of Ipiranga, the Sao Paulo Museum of Art, and the Museum of the Portuguese Language. The Sao Paulo Jazz Festival, the Sao Paulo Art Biennial, the Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo Fashion Week, the ATP Brazil Open, the Brazil Game Show, and the Comic-Con experience are all held in the city. Sao Paulo is a cosmopolitan melting pot metropolis with the largest Arab, Italian, Japanese, and Portuguese diasporas, with ethnic neighborhoods such as Bixiga, Bom Retiro, and Liberdade as examples. In 2016, the city's residents were from over 200 different nations. Paulistanos are people from the city, whereas Paulistas are people from the state, including Paulistanos. Non-Ducer, Duco is the city's Latin motto, which it shares with the battleship and aircraft carrier named after it. It translates as "I am not led, I lead." The city, often known informally as Sampa or Terra de Garoa, Land of Drizzle, is notable for its variable weather, large helicopter fleet, architecture, gastronomy, severe traffic congestion, and skyscrapers. Sao Paulo was a host city for both the 1950 and 2014 FIFA World Cups. The city has held the 4 Pan American Games and the Sao Paulo Indy 300. Sao Paulo's history. In the early 16th century, the Portuguese had only recently found Brazil. The indigenous Guianas people lived in the area that became home to Paulistanos, people from Sao Paulo. João Ramalho, a sailor who survived a shipwreck and married a native woman, was the first white settler. He was the one who assisted Martim Afonso de Souza and his soldiers, the first Portuguese colonial expedition, in establishing the first hamlet. Martim Afonso de Souza built São Vicente, one of the earliest communities in what is now Brazil, on January 20th, 1532. This was done to ensure that the land did not fall into foreign hands and that Portuguese authority was maintained. The Portuguese were one of the wealthiest governments in Europe at the time, with colonies spanning much of Africa and successful financial links with Asia. The Portuguese built no cities and had no intention of settling the new country. One of the Jesuits' principal tasks was to establish a school in the Sierra del Mar area, São Vicente, in 1554. Many Indians were converted to Christianity by these early colonists. Houses were developed around the school, and from this modest urban settlement grew the future megalopolis that is today's São Paulo. Following the Jesuits were the Bandeirantes, who pushed the western bounds of the country assigned to the Portuguese in the Tratado de Tordesillas, gaining for Brazil a great amount of area that is now theirs. Many mines were discovered in the search for gold and precious stones, which aided in the development of many modern cities, including São Paulo. The Bandeirantes Monument by Victor Brecheret in São Paulo attests to the importance of the Bandeirantes in the establishment of Brazil. The discovery of the first gold in Minas Gerais state drew the Portuguese crown's attention to the province. The Portuguese then purchased São Vicente from the Jesuits and gave it to the descendants of its original proprietors. In 1711, it was elevated to the status of city and renamed Capitania de São Paulo e Minas Gerais. The resulting gold rush enriched the Paulista explorers, who invested in sugarcane plantations and began constructing the first processing factories. This is what laid the agricultural groundwork for future coffee plantations. The Portuguese crown transferred to Brazil in 1808 during the Napoleonic era, but many problems forced Pedro I to declare independence for Brazil in 1822 on the bank of the Ipiranga River in São Paulo. After that, São Paulo began to serve as an intellectual and political hub for the rest of the country. Sugarcane estates grew in the 19th century along the Tite and Paraíba do Sul rivers, which run through the city. Farmers quickly replaced the pioneering Bandeirantes, realizing that coffee would be a far more profitable and successful product than sugarcane. The cash from coffee plantations was partly responsible for São Paulo's fast industrialization. Slavery was abolished in 1888, bringing an end to a 300-year-old tradition. However, people were still required to work on the farms and plantations, so waves of immigrants were drawn in. The initial wave was Italians, who developed the distinct Paulista accent, which is unlike any other Portuguese spoken in Brazil. Between 1882 and 1934, 4.5 million individuals moved to Brazil, with 2.3 million of them arriving as third-class workers in São Paulo. Brazil became a republic in 1889. São Paulo was not only the richest Brazilian province at the turn of the century, but it also boasted the most educated and well-trained people. As São Paulo became more industrialized and railroads connecting it to the country's other major cities were developed, a wide range of companies began to see São Paulo as immensely profitable. In the 1950s, Kupchak pushed on the country's industrialization, and firms such as General Motors, Ford, and Volkswagen were attracted and set up operations in São Bernardo do Campo, reflecting President Vargas' ideology of nationalism and self-sufficiency development during World War II. Internal immigration surpassed foreign immigration as millions of Brazilians, particularly from the Northeast, moved to São Paulo in quest of a better life. Most were uneducated and consequently took lower-level jobs. Many of the city's skyscrapers were built by the hands of these Nordestinos, individuals from the north. The city's cultural diversity can thus be better appreciated as a result of the massive influx of people that began at the end of the 19th century. The culture of the Nordestinos and the many international immigrants was absorbed and assimilated into the larger São Paulo area. São Paulo is now the most multicultural state in Brazil and the world's second largest city. This is all for now. Thank you for being with us.